One custard pie? Let me have it!
When the major Hollywood studios began shutting their cartoon departments down, it left many animators out of work, including William Hanna and Joseph Barbera. But they were able to land on their feet and stake a claim on the medium through television. Setting out in the late 50s, the two animators established themselves as the go-to television animation studio rather quickly, with the success of The Huckleberry Hound Show, Top Cat, Quick Draw McGraw, The Flintstones, and The Jetsons. However, these animated properties were very comedy-focused, lots of slapstick, funny animals, wordplay, and gags. The same could not be said for their next series, Jonny Quest. Jonny Quest is a sci-fi adventure and action drama in the style of pulp stories and comic books of the times. The series surrounds the adventures of the Quest family headed by Johnny's father, Dr. Benton Quest, a genius scientist tasked with assisting the US government. Dr. Quest's versatility in science on the verge of breaking new ground in all manner of scientific discovery makes him very valuable to the US government, but also a threat to many, whether it be smugglers, corrupt politicians, mad scientists, or low-tier thugs. That's where Race Bannon comes in. Race is a jack of all trades, competent in all manners of combat, whether it be armed or unarmed. He's an unstoppable force. He's like a mix of James Bond, Indiana Jones, Batman, and the Fonz. I mean, look at him, he's wrestling an alligator. In addition to his status as bodyguard, he is also the boys' tutor, giving lessons in judo and assigning them homework. Okay, let's talk about the boys. Johnny is the all-American hero archetype, headstrong, wide-eyed, and adventurous. He's surprisingly competent, considering the peril he finds himself in. Him and Haji are rarely the main target during these adventures, so a lot of the thugs and villains tend to underestimate them, to their detriment. Haji was an orphan that saved Dr. Quest's life while he was lecturing in Calcutta. He's smart-alecky but good-natured. He can perform magic tricks that defy the laws of gravity. I assume that there is some real-world explanation for some of these tricks, but here he is just levitating Johnny. Haji can just do that. Oh, and there's also Bandit. The villains of the series are 100% the main draw. There hadn't been any real sense of jeopardy in animation before this series, aside from possibly the Fleischer Superman shorts. The thugs in these cartoons weren't goofy, bumbling idiots. They were serious, gun-wielding criminals that had no qualms about killing kids. Though there is a distinction in stakes between episodes involving glorified thugs like Skull and Double Crossbones and A Werewolf in Timberland, and episodes involving legitimate psychopaths who give the Quest team a run for their money, like in Shadow of Condor, in which a former dogfighter for Germany during World War I, Baron Heinrich von Froelich, orchestrates one last dogfight against Race on his isolated mountain castle. The Quest team begin the episode barely landing on the site due to engine trouble. The Baron is a pretty creepy villain because of how seemingly hospitable he is to the group. In another episode, Dragons of Ashita, Race effortlessly defeats Dr. Ashita in a judo match. It's a demonstration of the villain's inferiority, and makes him more outwardly hostile immediately. But when Race outshoots the Baron, he is eerily delighted to see Race's expertise.
Good shot, Mr. Bannon!
In the Devil's Tower, the Quest team become prisoners of a former Nazi war criminal who has enslaved a group of Neanderthals to do his bidding. After losing Dr. Quest's hot air balloon to the titular Devil's Tower, the Quest group encounter Klaus, who intends to leave them on the escarpment and make off with their plane. There seems to be no exit off the mountain without a plane, but of course the group find a way out. This lunatic steals the plane and starts throwing grenades at the group. I just want to point out again how often the villains were totally cool with killing kids. Also, I like the way that Klaus says diamonds.
Diamonds!
Ew! Ugh. But of all the human villains presented on the series, the most evil and no good is the mastermind mad scientist, Dr. Zine. A sort of evil genius mirror to Dr. Quest, who always seems to be out of reach. They never meet him face to face in the original series. Dr. Zine consistently has a team of rogues to do his dirty work for him, killing his co-conspirators along the way to leave no traces or competition. He appears in 4 of the original series episodes: The Riddle of Gold, The Robot Spy, Double Danger, and The Fraudulent Volcano. which for the sake of brevity, I'll just talk about the best one. Robot Spy is one of the best episodes of the show. It's a masterclass in building tension. Dr. Zinn constructs a spider-like robot to spy on Dr. Quest and company. Its primary goal is to obtain the secrets to the Doctor's latest invention, the Para-Power Ray. God damn it. The Para-Power Ray. Okay. Of course, once the compound realizes this robot is running amok and attacking soldiers, they waste no time in blowing it to smithereens. Dr. Quest talking about the Para-Power Ray is supposed to just absorb energy so it can leave any army defenseless but alive. But that thing just blows the robot up like everything else in the show. And I mean, look at that thing. What else was it really gonna do? It's obviously just gonna blow it up. This episode is an excellent example of the creativity in the creatures that appear on the series, but this is just the tip of the iceberg for awesome monsters. The monsters and creatures that appear in this series are like none other before or even after. Episodes of this series were legitimately scary because of the genuine threat of these creatures. Look no further than the Curse of Anubis episode. It's probably the most frightening depiction of a mummy since the Universal films. I mean, look at it, it's barely wrapped. They got some of the living corpse in full view. Awesome! It spends the episode stalking Ahmed Karim, who attempts rather short-sightedly to frame Dr. Quest and Race for the robbery of a sacred temple. Anubis makes short work of him too. The Sea Haunt is another good one. The group receive a distress call from a ship in the Java Sea, which is revealed to have been ransacked and abandoned. A hulking prehistoric monster that came from the many thousands of fathoms below the deep sea has taken refuge on the ship. It destroys the Quest family's only mode of travel, leaving them stranded. Its massive scales make it impervious to gunfire, and it's weird and pissed off. The creature is absolutely unhinged, randomly destroying stuff on the ship for literally no reason. It's like if you take the creature from the Black Lagoon and made him stronger, uglier, and more ferocious. Another prehistoric monster episode is Turu the Terrible, in which the Quest family encounter a still surviving Pteranodon, who is controlled by a crazy man in a wheelchair. I'm not gonna lie, the creature is intimidating in some scenes, but I can't help but feel sorry for it. I kind of found it uncomfortable watching Race and the Doctor bludgeon it to death with a bunch of rocket missiles.
You can't kill Toro!
Oh wow, really? Okay, then what's that? Yeah, thanks for getting my hopes up. The Invisible Monster is a classic. It's another masterclass in tension as the creature can't be seen. It is considered one of the scariest episodes of the series. The monster is an unstoppable force, destroying everything in its path without fail. It's at first unclear how the creature can be stopped, but eventually the Doctor develops a plan to reverse the process in which it was created. I am not really sure why the Doctor thought it would be a good idea to bring Haji and Johnny along. He knew it was dangerous. Oh, but they got the jetpacks though. Look at them go! It's pretty cool, right? Nope. As soon as I saw those, I knew one of them would stop working, leaving one of the boys stranded, and of course, it's Haji. Not gonna lie, that monster looks fucking crazy after it's revealed.
I'll make a full report on Dr. Norman's experiment when we get back.
His loss will be a serious setback in his field, won't it, Doctor?
Yes, but if there's any consolation, what we learn from every setback helps science to move forward.
Sheesh, that's one hell of a setback, getting murdered by your own experiment. My favorite monsters come from the episode Terror Island, in which Dr. Chu Sing Ling kidnaps Dr. Quest to enlist his help in controlling the runoff of bacteria into the ocean. The twist being that the bacteria turns regular-sized animals into literal kaijus, spiders, lizards, and this lobster who literally wants all of the smoke. It spends the whole episode destroying everything in its path, and this episode is jam-packed with action. It starts off strong with the lobster's first attack, Dr. Quest's kidnapping follows quickly after that, Jade's speedy investigation, Race storming the island. Race was on the warpath in this one. He was not playing with these guys. The battle between the giant spider and the lobster is another highlight. The escape from the island initiates one of the wildest events in the series. This really goes to show how bad of an idea that bacteria was. It's excellent. The show has so many bangers, it was literally a moving comic book of the time. The artist behind this masterpiece really put in the work to dazzle its viewers. Hanna Barbera commissioned comic book artist Doug Wildey to initially develop a series based on the Jack Armstrong All-American Boy radio serials that were popular during the 40s and 50s. Doug started his comic book career as a freelance artist working mostly on westerns and adventure comics. He made his break into animation working under renowned comic book artist Alex Toth on Space Angel. Wildey completed a full pilot episode that can be seen in the end credits of the show, but it was ultimately rejected in favor of creating an original property. Doug was the creative force behind the style and tone of the show, and is responsible for its unique look. Drawing inspiration from Jack Armstrong serials of the 40s and 50s, the popular science and popular mechanic magazines for the cutting-edge science fiction with a foot firmly placed in reality, Special Agent 007 James Bond himself for the growing spy genre, including the show's original title, Jonny Quest File 037, and Terry and the Pirates, whose creator Milton Caniff is considered by Doug to be the greatest storyteller in the business. These elements were all blended to make a unique program for its time and for the studio that produced it. It quite literally looks different from any other cartoon before it and since, and this was a rather difficult task to accomplish with Hanna Barbera animators, who were used to drawing Fred Flintstone and Baba Looey. What I wanted was a moving comic strip, with the blacks and the shadows. If you look at the show, you can see certain parts where I got mixed up working with the animators, but when you get a whole studio full of people working on a show, Hanna-Barbera had 2 shows on the air, the Flintstones and Jonny Quest. And with a huge studio and a whole gang of people working on it, there was no way you could control everything. Things just slip on by. So that's why, despite the better quality of drawings and more realistic anatomy of the characters, there are still a few wonky drawings in between frames and sometimes even held. This completely different style of animated content was difficult for some of Hanna-Barbera's animators and writers who were some of the best talents from the Golden Age. It goes to show how different Jonny Quest was compared to what the medium had done up to that point. Doug would bring in a comic book artist or two to help in layout and backgrounds like Ken Londa and Alex Toth, his former supervisor. But difficulty maintaining the style of writing proved to be difficult as well. Arguments between Doug and the other writers about talking birds and Jonny pulling a ladder out of his pocket really frustrated him. He did manage to keep the show grounded, so the more fantastic elements of the show that were shown didn't break the immersion, it enhanced it. Jonny Quest would end its initial run in March 1965, but would continue to be reran as it was one of Hanna-Barbera's most popular programs. It also inspired the line of action cartoons that Hanna-Barbera would produce later on with Alex Toth. These cartoons would have a similar serious tone, use the same kind of music, even steal plots from Jonny Quest, especially Space Ghost. They lift the plot from the Invisible Monster and the Energy Monster. It formed the exact same way from some radioactive energy containment machine that blows up once the energy becomes too powerful. The drone is a ripoff of the Robot Spy episode, with the robot being placed behind enemy lines to wreak havoc once it emerges. The 2 robots even have similar designs. They steal from the Great Terror Island episode in Nightmare Planet, where Jan and Jace are captured and threatened to be disposed of by the Mad Doctor's evil creatures, only for the Doctor's biggest experiment to turn on them. Jonny Quest would return in 1986 with the New Adventures of Jonny Quest, and again in the late 90s, though the visual style wasn't maintained. The 80s series would be packaged along with edited episodes of the original series as part of the Funtastic World of Hanna-Barbera block, and was considerably less violent than the original, which means it sucked. The problem for me surrounding Jonny Quest content after the original series is not necessarily the stories being told. The 90s series is really solid in terms of animated adventure, and tonally is very consistent with the original. It's the way the series looks. While designs stay the same for the most part, with like mild alterations, the comic book inspired visuals are lacking pretty consistently. The thick black inking in the original series made it feel like a pulp comic book come to life. But it was also something that animators struggled with, especially if they didn't have a firm grasp of how light and shadow worked in a realistic environment. Without it though, the series doesn't look any different from like G.I. Joe. With that said, it only makes the original series stand out even more as the franchise continues to grow for more fans. Its influence on that generation of animators can be felt to this day. There's also proof that despite Hanna-Barbera's growing reputation for spitting out repetitive knockoffs of its own shows and other television series, it shows that not only were they fostering a place where, after the animation industry was basically destroyed, animation could still be produced and be profitable, but that they could also do something different and unique. And that really says a lot.
We must all get ready now.
Facility of plastic.